Alright, now that we're in the shop, I've got it supported on my workbench between two 2x6s. This is a two-piece shaft. Gonna put it back on the lower unit. And sometimes you can turn it counterclockwise and unlock the key. Sometimes you can actually hear it pop. I think I just heard it pop. So we're gonna try to take off these, I think they're 8mm bolts, and see if the lower unit will, or see if the impeller housing will come off. So let's start by removing the impeller housing. Just gonna break these loose and then do it by hand. Now for the fun part. Let's see what we have under here. I'm also going to cut this zip tie out of the way. Ah, much better. Let's see what we got. All right. Here's our O-ring. Ugh. All right. There's our housing. And it looks like our impeller is going to cooperate this time. And let me make sure I get the key. The key is right there on the side, still held on by the O-ring. This one doesn't look that bad, but then again, this motor wasn't running that hot. It was the port motor that was running a little warm, so I replaced that impeller and kit and plate and everything. And noticed that the port was running just a little cooler than the starboard one, so I figured since they're twins, I should treat them both the same. So let's see what's underneath this plate. All right. Again, no marks. You could probably get away with just putting a new impeller on. You can see how it's not that bad, but it has kind of taken the shape of the housing. That way it's not really pushing up on the sides as hard anymore, so it doesn't pump water as hard. But then again, I mean, it's not broken. I mean, this was still keeping the motor plenty cool, just not as cool as the other motor, which I put a brand new pump in. So I don't know if you can tell, there's still some old gaskets stuck on here, so we're gonna have to remove that. But for starters, I'm gonna try to keep my area clean. I don't want to mix up my old parts with my new parts. I might save that. All right. I'm really a big fan of these plastic razor blades. I use them around the shop all the time for other things. Can really help you get old gaskets off without damaging your the mating surface, because you do want to get all the old gasket off, but you don't want to damage your old surface. Ooh, this one's really on there. So just take your time and get it all off. Probably gonna put a new blade on it. All right, fresh plastic blade. Let's see what this bad boy can do. Oh yeah, way better. You can see that the previous owner obviously left this thing trimmed down when he wasn't using the boat. I got all kind of sea shells in my lower unit. Wow. This one's really being difficult. Might have to get out a razor, a metal razor. All right, so I got a metal razor now. Just be super careful not to gouge your mating surface here. That's why I'm not really a fan of using the metal razors to remove gasket material, if possible. Yeah, but this is working way better. See, I'm coming up to this hose. Be careful. Yeah, that's as far as I could get before it tore. Going to use a little emery cloth to clean up some of this corrosion. Oh yeah. Looks way prettier. Alright, so now we're going to put our new gasket back on. It'll only go on one way, so that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Yay! So as you can see, they do a pretty good job of idiot proofing that for you. Now I use this gasket shellac compound. It looks a lot like the Evinrude stuff. Maybe we'll give it a little shake. Sure seemed to work on the other one. So we're just gonna paint this on. And it's supposed to make the gasket work better. And I am all for that. Alright, now let's put that on there the way we had it before. And we'll put a little, ooh, that's a lot. Try to move that around here just a little. Alrighty. And now for our shiny new plate. Alright, not that way. Looks like it's gonna be this way. Alright. You see I got some of that brown stuff on the plate. We'll clean that up real quick. Alright. And then they want you to coat this whole plate with grease. This will help when you're kind of putting everything together for the first time. You don't have to worry about the impeller binding up. It's probably the one time you could get away with starting it without the hose. Still wouldn't recommend it, but it probably wouldn't hurt it. Alrighty. Okay guys, I'm not gonna lie. This step is actually a lot harder than all the videos make it seem to be. I've done it before on other motors. This one in particular seemed to be extra large for the housing that it's in. The rubber seemed to be a little stiffer. What I ended up doing is putting it face down on carpet, and these little tabs will grab the carpet, and then with both hands push it counterclockwise, because when you flip it over, the tabs will be facing to go clockwise, which all motors spin clockwise. Even if you have a counter rotating lower unit, the counter rotation is done down below. I think pretty much all engines spin clockwise, but that's what worked for me. I've had ones that seem to be softer rubber or smaller rubber. They go in there easier. This one seemed more difficult. Put on some carpet, that'll grab the carpet, and then you can use both hands to simultaneously spin. Just try not to cut your finger on that. So at this point, there's a little O-ring that goes in there. We're gonna put a little, always put grease or something on O-rings. Don't just throw an O-ring into anything. If they want you to put grease on it, put grease on it. If they want you to put on a certain O-ring, we're gonna be using this gasket sealer. You never wanna just put an O-ring by itself into something. It just doesn't work as good. So we're gonna put a little grease on this O-ring, put him up in there. Beep, 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 beep. So you can see he's happy in there, kind of sticking. Grease will also help O-rings stick where they're supposed to. So now we got this funny looking O-ring that goes in here a certain way. You can see it's got this notch. And it sits in there nice and pretty. So now that I know that it fits and it hasn't been stretched. Oh, you gotta be careful with these two. Don't pull on these. It's really easy to stretch these kind. We're gonna put a little gasket sealer in this hole. Now you gotta work fast. Make sure you got everything else ready to go, because this will start to tack up on you and it'll actually make your job more difficult. So we got our gasket sealer. We're gonna put our gaskets into our gasket groove that already has our gasket sealer in it. And this is going to give us a really good seal. That way all of the water pressure that we make can't get out anywhere, and it all gets forced through the power head. So now we're going to put our, there's little marks in here where this goes. So that's ready. Oh, it wants you to put, not sure why, but it wants you to put some of this in this little housing right there. And we'll put our so now it's locked in there nice and flat. You can see where we've got our little deal. And this is the moment of truth. Woo. And we are seated. I always like to do a crisscross pattern whenever I'm tightening something like this down. That way you don't get it in a bind. You always want to grease your splines for salt water, so they won't get stuck together. And the grease in there will also help take up some of the slop in between the splines. Some grease, that when they go in the power head you don't have to worry about them getting stuck. And I know with vehicles, I mean a boat's a vehicle, but cars and trucks, seems like when you grease the splines like that, it takes up some of the slop. So I don't know if you can really see with this GoPro, but you want to use a pick to get those old yeah. So you want to use a pick to take these old O-rings off, and then new ones come in the kit, and you'll want to cover those in grease. That'll also give you a really good seal with your new water pump. Alright, sorry that I found somebody to help me put the lower unit in. I forgot to actually film it. These lower units are actually a little easier to put in because there's no shift shaft. You just route your wires up through the center, make a loop, and then feed your shift actuator plug up through the power head where it goes up there. So route the extra slack in your cable, come up here, and then what you want to do is clip it back in, but you want to secure it so it's not just hanging by the plug. You don't want to pull the wires out. So that's how you do that. You want to secure your oil hose and your wire in the center. Have it come through here. Don't forget to put your tank. And it's time to test it. Wait for it.